What's up, YouTube? Today is Thursday. It is August the 23rd, and I have been out of the loop because I have been under the weather, sick on the East Coast, as all other coasts. We are preparing for our fall. The fall weather's coming in. Now, I'm not saying that it's cold, but I have like these seasonal allergies that just agitate from time to time, and so that's what happened. It's put me out of the loop. I haven't been able to do any videos. I've been congested and I can't talk and my voice sounds crazy. And it still does right now. But in all the craziness, of course, it's been a pretty eventful week in the news, of course. So last time I was reporting to you, we were talking about the threatening of the jurors. And of course, there was questions as to if the jurors were threatened, why were they sent home? So anyhow, they've come up with a verdict. Just the other day, Paul Manafort was found guilty on 8 of 10 counts. I believe there was 18 that they were trying to get him for. So it was slashed down to 10, and he actually got convicted of 8 of them. My hopes, my thoughts is that Trump will pardon him. And if he does, that'll be the right thing to do. Because if the crime, or let's say the allegation, doesn't fit, you must acquit, right? So this whole investigation with the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller was based on Russian collusion and Trump's campaign colluding with the Russians. To date, no one has been convicted of this so-called collusion. Has there been evidence of collusion? Yes, there has. The evidence of collusion all points to the other side. It's all on the Democratic side, with everything that was done, everything that was orchestrated, people that were paid to do certain things, people that were put in certain positions of power to, let's say, just do certain things. There's so many layers. There's so many layers, and I'm not going to go through all of them. So I think he should be pardoned. I think Trump will pardon him. And the same goes for Cohen. I don't know what's going on with Cohen. You know, he's already struck a plea deal. And as far as all the legal analysts, because of course we have to listen to them speculate all the time. And depending on the network and depending who you're listening to, you're going to hear about, they're saying that, you know, him pleading guilty, that immediately just ties to Trump. So Trump is guilty too. It's ridiculous. Makes absolutely no sense. For one, if you do struck a plea deal, you're just saying that you're guilty and you're avoiding jail time for yourself. That's it. And one has nothing to do with the other. But of course, you know why they are putting the pressure on them, because that's what they want them to do. They want them to squeal and say things about President Trump, even as they say compose, just make up stories, saying anything to avoid going to jail. They have proven that they will do anything at this point. It is August 2018, and from the day that this man has come into office, they have done nothing but try to treat him like a criminal for the most part and just deem him guilty, bombard him in scandal and controversy and negative stories, everything awful, anything that you can think of, just to keep him involved and engaged in drama, and to basically the word's not coming. They want to not give the credit to him. They don't want to give him the love. They do not want to give him his accolades for all the good things he actually is doing. It's all been about delegitimizing this president. Gosh, I got the word out. All right, so it's all been about delegitimizing this president. And the 2016 election results, as they say, it's a soft coup d'etat. They've been trying to overturn this president, trying to get him impeached on nothing. There have been no crimes committed. He's done nothing. He's not guilty of anything but winning an election. That's all. So Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, Flynn, General Flynn, all these people I believe will be pardoned. And, he has to let this process play out. Now, there's still stories about Jeff Sessions. I have no idea. There's still calls that, people who want Jeff Sessions fired. It just doesn't make any sense. He's just too quiet for me. I don't understand it. I don't know if it's a game of chess. It's all part of the strategy. But at this point, it's just like Jeff Sessions, so useless at this point. So many things have been going on. So, anyhow, there's a couple of things. So, the other thing I'm going to touch on is that I was watching Sean Hannity, a segment from Sean Hannity, and he was talking to Levin that does CRTV, and they were talking about, Paul Manafort, this whole case and everything. And at some point in time, Hannity started talking about the fact that, he's really going to be concerned about, with this whole case about, equal justice under the law. Well, gosh, I mean, I don't know if, you've heard, but there are lots of issues with our judicial system. Outside of race, how about just class? Because obviously in some cases, if you can afford the right attorneys, you can buy your way out of prison. But the folks who can't, they're pretty much just guilty and they're going to serve time. So he made this statement. I was like, really? So one good thing that actually I just read about in the news comes for the state of New York, whereas New York becomes the first state to create a commission on prosecutorial misconduct. Now, prosecutorial misconduct comes in lots of different forms. What you're seeing right now with Rob Mueller, with the James Comey and all these people who have law degrees, they've been committing prosecutorial misconduct in their actions, in their behavior. They know the judicial system. They know the law system. They know the way that it works. And based on that, they take advantage of it. It's an abuse of power. And they're allowed to do it because they know the law. And then they also have immunity for these prosecutors. So there's really no tool. There's nothing in place to address them if they do abuse their power. And so New York, through pressure, there's been, it's come out of, for the most part, the Brooklyn's DA's office. Charles Hines used to serve as the Brooklyn DA for maybe more than 30 years. I may be giving the numbers wrong, but either way, he was brought down based on a case that had to do with prosecutorial misconduct. And what they've been finding is that there's been multiple cases where the same tactics was used to get a conviction, and you had innocent people going to jail because the system does not work. The system is flawed. And so New York becomes the first state to create a commission on prosecutorial misconduct. So kudos for Cuomo. I'm not a fan of Cuomo, but kudos for him for signing on to this. So this is being cited as a major victory for criminal justice reform. New York became the first state in the country on Monday to establish an independent commission with the power to investigate misconduct by state prosecutors. Passed with bipartisan support and signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo, the legislation will create an 11-member statewide commission which will field complaints and launch its own investigations into wrongdoings committed by the state's 62 county district attorneys. The body fines will be made public and referred to the governor, who has the power to remove district attorneys. Our criminal justice system must fairly convict the guilty and exonerate the innocent. This was Cuomo's statement. When any prosecutor consciously disregards that fundamental duty, communities suffer and lose faith in the system, and they must have a forum to be heard and seek justice. I agree with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the truth. But we don't have that in place right now. So they're moving to put this in place. The legislation has been lauded by public defenders, criminal justice reform advocates, and New Yorkers who have been wrongfully convicted. So you have several New Yorkers who have been wrongfully convicted, and of course you hear about cases like this that go on all around the country. So there's also pushback, of course. This is not like something that everyone's singing kumbaya about, that they're happy about. So the pushback comes whereas you have, while most prosecutors respect their ethical obligations, far too many innocent people have been wrongfully convicted as a result of prosecutorial misconduct, and until today, there is no effective means for holding those who commit bad acts accountable. We hope that other states will follow New York's lead and address this serious problem plaguing the criminal justice system. So there is some pushback, though. There's some people who are saying that it's not valid as far as the Constitution goes, and they're not happy about it. So it has to get proved. It has to go and then eventually be put in legislation. So it's not going to be any easy walk in the park, but it does make a valid argument, and maybe some other states will follow suit. Because if you are wrongfully convicting somebody and putting them in jail, when they come out, they're going to be able to sue the state, and they're going to get paid for it. So the state's going to pay for it no matter what eventually. And nobody being held accountable, it's not right. The taxpayers are paying the bill for that. So prosecutorial misconduct, big deal, and it's what governs a lot of our judicial system. It's what's wrong with our judicial system. Okay, so I have that, and also I wanted to talk also about this 36% approval among African Americans. A new poll finds in support for none other than President Trump. 36%. That's pretty astounding. I think the last time I did a video, I was talking about the NAACP, who ran a poll who had him at 21%. But this poll that was published as of August 2016 shows that his ratings among black voters is 36%, Rasmussen said in a tweet. See that? Pretty interesting. So all I'll say is that, the numbers, of course, we shouldn't always cite the polls because we know how the polls have been. But I'm one of them. I'm one of those supporters, and I just believe that. I also believe that people are not talking about who they're supporting or politics because they're concerned about the pushback that they may get if they do. So I believe it. I believe it's growing. And so good for President Trump. Good for him with that. Lastly, I will say, I knew what I was doing by obviously doing a video about Omarosa, but I still believe, her 5 minutes of fame, they're going to fizzle out. But, I got some comments from some other sisters who were saying that I'm hating and how I should know how hard it is for a black woman in power. So, for one, again, we go into the race, okay? This has nothing to do with Omarosa being a black woman. This has everything to do with Omarosa being Omarosa. It has nothing to do with the color of her skin. It is who she is. It is the opportunist that she is. And opportunists come in each and every different color and form. It does not matter what their race are. An opportunist is an opportunist. And the way she went about doing what she did, who walks around with a video recorder? Who walks around just taping people? What manipulative, vengeful person in their conscious mind today, no matter what I'm going to do, whoever I'm going to come into contact with, I'm going to record them. That's something that is calculated that you do, that you plan out. Why? But this is the individual that she is. So she just knew that she was going to, someday, she was going to use this against this man, this president, this administration, whatever you want to call it. And this person, for like 15 years, really? You've been around this person and, you've been around Trump and this is what you do? I'm sorry. She's shown herself to be who she is, who she really is, who she always was. And that's why there was a lot of people that, did not agree with her going into the White House due to those character traits. She could be deemed a sociopath. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to defend the indefensible. She is who she is. And when it comes down to it, any pushback or anything I've ever dealt with has never dealt with anyone. When we talk about the topic about a black woman being in power, I used to be a black woman in power, an elected position. I know I had friends before I became elected, but after I became elected, that's when it all changed. Then I didn't have many friends anymore. You talk about hate. It was unbelievable, the kind of hate that I dealt with, the backstabbing, okay? And it didn't come from white people. It came from the sisterhood, okay? It was sisters who was doing this to one another, okay? Who was doing this to me. So I have been in a position of power. I do know what it's like to be a black woman in power. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't nice. Especially when your constituents were the ones who were trying to tear you down. Even when you had their best interests at heart. Meaning that your whole job and the purpose of what you did was on their behalf. That wasn't enough for them to love you and support you. They still went to shoot you down. So I'm sorry. I know what that feels like, but when it comes down to Omarosa, forget about the color of her skin because this has nothing to do with the color of her skin. Okay, we have to let go of the phenotypes and the identity politics. Now, she's a relentless opportunist, like I said the first time. And as when it comes down to Paul Manafort, Cohen, General Flynn, and anyone else who has got themselves caught up, who have not been found guilty of Russian collusion in this fake investigation that was started in the first place, Trump will pardon. That's my guess. He will pardon. And again, if the allegation doesn't fit, you must acquit. Later, guys. See you in the next video. Love.